And again, these are going to be top 10 senior scams, and we're also going to discuss some credit card skimming and card fraud because that seems to be a huge problem right now. So let's go into our number 10 spot is check fraud. A lot of our older adults are more inclined to write a check for something and mail it, or write a check and present it to a cashier than some of the younger people. A lot of folks are using their credit cards, are using Apple Pay, Google Pay, but I know our seniors are still engaged in check writing quite often. It's familiar to them. They're used to it. They like that type of format of payment.
Recording is on.
And it provides them with a record of their payment, which is very important as well. Problem is, when you're receiving a check from someone you don't know, through the mail or hand to hand, you have to take the time to understand, is it legitimate? What was the purpose of the check? Is it written on an active open account? Will it be valid? What information is on your check? Of course, we have our routing number and our account number, our name, our address, some cases our phone number. And a lot of times we know that people can take that information and use it to build on it to then develop a way to crack our identities, find out how to steal our personal and financial information. Some checks that are delivered to us are fraudulent checks. They're written on hijacked accounts. Sometimes they're invalid from the very start. They're counterfeit. It's easy to go to an office supply store and buy pre-printed checks that you can run through your computer printer at home. And criminals will do this. They often will use these checks to defraud you into a way that you have to then expose cash to honor the check. In other words, hey, I had this check. I'm from out of town. Unfortunately, I got to get going. I don't have an account anywhere around here. And I really need to get on my flight. I need to get home. Any chance I give you this check for $1,200 and you just provide me $500 in cash for my travel expenses, you keep the rest. It was a check for a job I did. I really don't need the extra money. I just need to get my plane ticket and get out of here. People might think, wow, I'm getting half that check just by giving him the cash. That's great. Not great. The check's fraudulent. Your cash is gone. The suspect is gone, and you're holding a bad check. So we really, really want to make sure that we're dealing with people that we know, people that we trust, and we validate the check before we take any action on it. If you receive a check in the mail for any purpose, always make sure it's legitimate, it's valid, and that you know where it came from. Don't act on it. Don't cash it. Don't deposit it and move cash. Don't transfer any funds. Nothing until you know it's cleared. Number 9. Sad case, the sweetheart swindle, This breaks my heart, because people are lonely. As we age, we often find that a lot of our friends, sometimes our spouses, become very ill or pass away, and we find ourselves more isolated and alone. We are looking for companionship. We're looking for compassion. We're looking for someone to communicate with, and those issues can draw us in to be a victim of a sweetheart swindle or a romance scam. There's a TV show called Catfishing. I don't know how many people are aware of that show. It's been out now for quite a while. And catfishing is when people go online on social media platforms and pretend to be someone that they are not in a romantic gesture. Quite often, that friendship blossoms into a romance. They start to reel you in. They will slowly kind of get to know you and talk about how much you have in common and how great it is to be able to communicate with someone. They're lonely also, and boy, you're a godsend. They are so happy they found you online, right? And then they slowly start to develop these feelings for you. They start expressing themselves more intimately, and they want to talk about romance and getting together, maybe going to a nice show or a dinner. And right now, it's easy. COVID, hey, I know we can't be together right now. Well, that's an excuse not to meet you face to face. That can be used to then further develop this scheme of a sweetheart swindle. They're going to tell you, I would do anything right now to meet up with you and take you out on the town. I just can't because of COVID. I can't. Or they'll tell you they can't because they're out of the country at the time. Perhaps a gentleman might tell you they're serving in our U.S. military. show you some great photos in uniform, some action, some combat pictures. And boy, I'm so glad to have someone to communicate with. I really have no family at home. You and I are developing this great conversation, this great relationship. And I'm over here, stuck in Afghanistan, Iraq, wherever they're going to claim to be. And suddenly they have some need for money, right? And it happens for, the gentlemen and the ladies. Gentlemen might get an email with some photos of a young woman, very, very attractive. She sends some glamour photos, in beautiful gowns, maybe swimwear, maybe out on the town at a nightclub type of photo. And boy, if you could only join me, the fun we'd have. Well, maybe she's not a she at all. Might be a male in another country online posing as that particular female, and they're sending you photos that look great, but is it a real person? Well, it might be a real person, but not the one that you're speaking to. Criminals will often go on the internet and find photos of very attractive people, men and women, and then steal the photos by copying and pasting them and representing them as someone else in the use of a sweetheart swindle romance scam. And when these photos come across, boy, they can be impressive, right? And you start thinking, oh my gosh, he's so handsome, she's so beautiful, and they're talking to me, and we're starting to get a great relationship. And this could go on for months. It could go on for a year or two. It might be very short. But a lot of times these are extended cases where they want to continue the relationship. And if you give money on their request, perhaps, hey, I'm in Afghanistan and I had an off-duty injury. I'm in the military, but it was my leave day and I broke my ankle and I don't have medical care for that because it wasn't during active duty. I need you to send me $1,200 to go over to Germany and get my leg set at the military hospital there. Well, no, that's not the way that works. But someone who doesn't know the military might understand that, Jesus, poor person, they don't have the money for the surgery and the trip, perhaps. And it could be anything. It could be, I'm a businessman and I have payroll to pay, but I'm out of the country on another business deal I'm putting together and I don't have access to my account from here. That's all nonsense. But people get caught up in it. And it's easy. Don't be embarrassed. We had a case the U.S. Secret Service was working on in Bucks County, in the lower end of the county. And they asked me to come in and sit down and speak with the victim. This gentleman was in his 60s, and he was a victim of a sweetheart swindle. He met someone online. His wife had passed a few years earlier. He was lonely. His 2 adult children did not live in the state, and he was ripe for the picking. And unfortunately, he gave away about $344,000 is what we estimated by the time we spoke with him. And we just couldn't convince him that it wasn't real. Oh, it's Michelle. Michelle's lovely. He showed me photos on his phone. I said, well, that's great, but the Secret Service agent here has some photos they'd like to share. They put the money that was being mailed under surveillance. And they had photos of the 2 Nigerian men picking up the mail, the cash in envelopes stuffed between magazine pages. And I said, either of these gentlemen look like Michelle? Well, no. That must be her friends or her family. I'm like, no, it isn't. These are the operators that are stealing your money. He just was brainwashed, basically. He was convinced. He wanted it to be real. And it was very difficult to talk him out of it. We ended up actually getting his permission and having him dial his adult son out of state, and we spoke with him. And they came here, and they had an emergency guardianship hearing. And we learned later that the gentleman actually had a brain injury from a car accident, and that was part of the factor of why he was so convinced. But it can happen. It can happen very easily, so we don't want you to fall victim to this. If you meet someone online, don't share personal data. Don't talk too much about your real life. Don't provide them any information about your income, your assets, what you've done for a living in the past. Keep it very brief until you really can confirm. You can do online image searches where you can post an image and see if it's been used on other sites. And most often, these people that are doing these frauds are going to reuse that image. If that image is successful in getting someone to take the bait, as they say, in catfishing, they're going to reuse that photo because it worked, right? They're going to post it again and again and again. So it might be under a different name on another site. it can be seen on these online image searches, in your Google engine and those type of things. So you really want to do your homework. Number 8, talk a little bit about investment scams. And I'm no financial expert. I lean on my friends over at Pennsylvania Banking and Securities. That's a great organization here in the state of Pennsylvania. You can contact them for information on investments, on checking with the Securities Commission. But, these investment schemes are always out there, always lurking in the shadows, trying to get you to buy in. I think the most famous recently had to be Bernie Madoff, right? So we've all heard of Bernie Madoff. We all know how he made off with a lot of money from a lot of very smart, talented, and rich people. So again, just because you fall victim to one of these schemes, I don't want you to feel bad about that. I don't want you to feel embarrassed in any way. A lot of people have lost money in investment scams. It's risky. Even on the real marketplace, it's a risk. That's the whole idea. You're taking a risk with that income. Now, some pay off. I guess if I was a smarter individual back in the day, I would have invested in Apple or something, or Amazon, right? I mean, some of these companies really do boom, but most don't. And what are the risks? What are you investing, and can you afford that investment to be lost? And that's your key question. Can I afford to lose this money? Don't focus on what you're being offered as a possibility. Focus on your reality. Can I afford this? If this money disappears tomorrow, am I okay? Can I make sure I have a roof over my head, paying my bills, getting my medication, food, healthcare? All these things are important expenses. So make sure you have the money before you invest in anything. And, of course, do your homework, right? You want to find out from the Securities Commission, is that person actually licensed to give you financial advice? Is that investment, is it trending anyplace? Go to some of the marketplaces and look for activity. See what the recent activity is. Don't trust someone that you've just met recently, or they tell you that there's something in common as why they want to share this with you. That happens a lot, They tell you that maybe they've attended the same high school or came from the same region of the state or the country. And, boy, I don't share this kind of information often, but I'm really taking a liking to you, and I think I want to share this with you and let you know this great opportunity. Well, if you don't know the person, you shouldn't trust the person. And this is your financial stability. This is very important. So we want seniors to make sure that they're inquiring in all the right places before they invest their money. And again, with COVID right now, we're all anxious for a vaccine. We need a vaccine. There's a lot of medical and healthcare providers and facilities that are working on this. Colleges and universities are doing research on this. And there's some potential vaccines that are being developed. So when you're asked to invest in one, is the offer real? Is the source legitimate? And have you done your homework? Check it out before you buy into anything. And anyone that tells you it's low risk, high yield, and high return, it's a fast turnaround, probably not true. If it was that easy, we'd all be billionaires, right? So we want to make sure that we really, really know what we're getting into. And if you're not a savvy financial person, and I'm not really savvy in finances, that's not my thing. I go to an expert that I know and I trust. I look for someone through my financial institution that I deal with, my bank, my credit union. Do they recommend someone? I look for someone that has a record of success, someone local that I can go and physically visit at the office when they're open to do so from COVID, but at least maybe get a face-to-face online like we're doing here today. Someone that that is a brick-and-mortar location that has been there for many years and has a good reputation. We're going to move on to number 7. We're going to talk a little bit about what we call front door fraud. Not all scams are online. Not all scams are by the telephone or text message or email. Sometimes it's a knock on your front door. Hi, I'm selling magazines to get myself through college. This young man at the door might be telling that woman, "Oh, well, that's great. I'd love to help you out, young man. What do I need to do?" "Well, I have this subscription form. I need your basic information." "Well, what's that?" Oh, it's your name, your address, routing number, account number, credit card number, date of birth, social security number. That's identity theft. That's way too much information for a magazine subscription. So we have to be watchful even at our own homes. Who's at the door? What do they want from us? And what am I giving up? What am I giving out to an unknown person visiting my front door? My first rule is don't open the door. Nope, don't even open it. Keep your door locked and secured. If someone's on your door, front step, knocking on the door, talk to them through the window. Go over to the next window and crack that a few inches and say, "Can I help you? I'm sorry, I don't recognize you. Do you have identification? What can I do for you?" Ask a few questions, right? And if they don't seem legitimate, if they're kind of squirrely and they don't want to answer right up front, or they seem way too slick and polished, like they've rehearsed this line over and over again, dial 911. Let the police come out and investigate. Most townships and boroughs have a no solicitation policy anyhow. They have that local ordinance in place. So if they're coming door to door, they should have a permit. And let the police inquire. Let them check it out. You're not doing anything wrong by calling the police. It's their job. They're there to protect and to serve you. And that includes making sure you're safe from strangers approaching your front door. But if you unlock the door and start to open it, they could force their entry. It could be a home invasion robbery. Goodness, we don't want that to happen. So we always encourage folks of all ages, but especially our older adults, use caution when answering the door. If you have a peephole, I see on the slide, you can see it right above the duck, which is a beautiful door knocker. She has a eye viewing peephole, security hole. Did she use it before opening the door? I don't know. She should have. And she shouldn't have just opened the door and greeted this person if she doesn't know them. And some of the props, I love the props. They'll come to your front door with a clipboard in their hand, right? And now, of course, it's election time. So there's a lot of door knocking for both political parties that are going door to door with, materials, conversation, petitions, polls, all that kind of thing. You don't have to answer your door. You don't have to engage these folks. Even if they're wearing a political button or a T-shirt or an ID badge of some type, don't unlock the door until you're comfortable. Check by going to the window, finding out more about the person and why they're approaching your front door. Another thing that we see often is the home repair fraud that comes to the front door. We're here to top coat your driveway. That's infamous, right? And I know Matt Weintraub at your DA's office. He's a great guy. I know Matt very long time now. He investigates those cases locally as well, and they've put a few people in jail. You pay for that driveway coating, and all of a sudden, what was $500 becomes $5,000. And they're forcing you to pay. Or they don't put top coat down at all. It's black paint or motor oil, and now you have a mess in your driveway, and you're not getting what you paid for. So there's a lot of front door fraud we all have to be aware of and be very, very open to making sure that we aren't being taken advantage of at our own home. So again, consult with someone that you know. If you need services, you contact someone and invite them to talk to you. Just don't open the door to strangers and allow them to be in control of the conversation. So again, front door fraud, if you don't know them, don't open the door. And if you're suspicious, let the police come out and check on that person and see why they're out there. No harm in dialing 911. Number 6, medical alert system. Great tool. It's a great tool. It saves lives. And I'm firmly believe in it, and I think it's a great item for folks that need it. But when someone contacts you and tells you you're receiving a free medical alert system, is it really free? Right? Why is it free? Oh, we have a government program. This is already paid for. We're going to take care of you. Oh, well, that's great. Or your family has ordered this for you, and they've asked us to remain anonymous. What family member doesn't want credit with mom and dad, right? Your brother, your sister, your niece, your nephew, somebody. I got that for you, Mom. I bought that, right? So be suspicious for a free offering of an alert system of this nature. And when they want to register you, because you have to be registered. So if you activate the alarm, 911 response will have your information, right? So what do they want? Name, date of birth, Medicare number, insurance policy numbers, social security numbers, that kind of thing. Again, could be identity theft. Easily could be identity theft. And what if the medical alert system that you're receiving doesn't work because it's not a legitimate company? Maybe that was a tool to get in the front door, right? Or in conversation over the phone, through email, through letter. We got to make sure that what we're buying is legitimate from a good vendor with a good reputation. Again, I know I keep repeating some of these terms, but it's
recording is on.
And we want to make sure that if we are signed up with a service, that service is going to provide us the 911 response that we expect and not steal our data and personal information. So it has to be legitimate, right? Get a lot of calls on number 5, charity solicitation. Man, this has been going on for a long, long time, and it's going to continue, and there's nothing wrong with helping a good charity. I'm all for it. I support a couple of charities myself. But here's the difference, folks. What I do is I do my research. I know the charity I want to support. I know all about them. I know what they do with the money. How do I know that? Simple. I ask. If a charity is soliciting you, you have every right to ask them to mail you their last year's financial report. That's simple. Let's see how much money came in, how much money went into special projects and helping the needy, whoever it is that they claim they support. How much went to administrative cost, meetings, advertising, salaries, right? A lot of charities are operated by boards, and some have executives that are being paid. Where's the money? Before I give my hard-earned dollars to a charity, I want to know that they're going to be financially responsible and use that money for the appropriate need, right? As they're describing the children need your help at Children's Hospital. Yes, they do. That's great. Good cause. Our veterans that are wounded in combat, absolutely, love to support them. But make sure that it's a real charity, not a scam, because scam artists, they love to pretend to be the charities because people know that your wallet is attached to your heartstrings, right? They give you that story, that pitch. They talk about all the need and how you can make that big difference. Well, okay, that's true. I could make a big difference. Question is it real? So what do we do to do that? Well, let me give you some tips. One of the things you can do very simply is to do an online search. Put in the name of the charity and put in complaints plus concerns or scam word. See what happens. If other people have had bad experiences, they're going to be talking about it online. You can also go to one of the charity watchdog groups, right? There's a bunch of these organizations out there that monitor the activity of these charitable groups. And they'll let you know if someone is copycatting a real charity. And this is something that hurts not just you, but it hurts the charity as well. If a criminal is pretending to be the Wounded Warriors, pretending to be Children's Hospital, pretend to be United Way or any of these organizations, that takes away the legitimate donors because now they feel suspicious of that charity, even though the charity is not at fault. A criminal can pretend to be anybody. They will use those names of those well-known charitable organizations to trick us. And a lot of times the caller is very smooth. If it's over the phone, watch out for these guys, right? They're going to call you by your first name. Walter, how are you today? That kind of thing, right? I'm sure you've gotten those calls. I know I do, right? My favorite is, can we count on you again this year? Well, what does that do? Well, that kind of makes the idea in your mind that, well, maybe I've given before, so I must have checked them out. They must be okay. No, check it out every time. You don't know who's on the phone. Always check the caller and find out if it's a professional solicitor, right? Even a real charity will hire people to make their phone calls and do the mailing. Is it legitimate? Are you paid? What is your full name? And what percentage does your organization take out of the charitable group's income for your fee? And you're like, what? These solicitors, these telemarketers, the letter writing campaigns, the mailings, somebody's paying for that. It's you. Most of these organizations that work for these charities by doing the marketing are paid on a commission basis. And when that happens, they can take 60, 70, even 85% of the fund. So what you're donating, that $100 might turn into $10 or $15 or $20 going to the charity. Do you want your hard-earned money being divided up that way? No. I say don't give only because they've asked. Give when it's right for you. When you have that extra income and you can afford it, that's when you start looking. And you look for a cause that's dear to your heart, something that you want to support, hopefully something local. I always try to find local activities. People in need around me. I feel much better when I can help a neighbor, a community member, somebody here in Pennsylvania. And I check out the charity and I call the Pennsylvania Department of State. And they have a listing of the Bureau of Charitable Giving where people that are going to solicit you have to register. So a charity that's using a solicitor to ask for donations will be registered in the Department of State. And you will know contact information, right? How do I reach the charity's office? Find out, is there a campaign ongoing right now? You know, not every charity solicits year-round. Some have scheduled campaigns. And if you're getting phone calls and it's not on their scheduled campaign, it might not be the real charity. It could be a scam, right? So again, you have to do your homework. We're constantly reminding people to inquire about these issues. Contact someone at the charity directly. And when you can, guess what? Give directly. Don't use the mailer that comes in the letter with the campaign, right? The return address, all that kind of stuff. That is going to be shared with the marketing company, that percentage of your amount that you put in. But if you give outside of the campaign window and you give directly to the charity, they get the whole gift, right? A lot more help when you get all the 100 instead of 10 or 20% of that $100. So we encourage you to think before you give. Check out the charity, contact the Department of State, contact the watchdog groups online, and check out the charitable donation request. Always use caution when giving and be very, very careful of who it is that's receiving your hard-earned dollars. Let's go on now to number 4. Government or banking impersonators. Oh, man, this is a big one, right? I think the most popular version of this that we've all encountered is the IRS scam call, right? So somebody gets on the phone and tells you this is the IRS calling, and unfortunately there's a problem. Your Social Security number has been hijacked. Your number came up during a criminal investigation. The FBI is coming to arrest you. Or there's a problem in one of your past returns, and you owe an outstanding amount, and we haven't been able to reach you. It's all nonsense. These are all government impersonator scams. Not only do they say they're the IRS, they may say they're Medicare. They may call and say they're the Social Security Administration. Right now with COVID, you might get a call saying it's the Centers for Disease Control. We do not have government offices sitting around calling people on the phone. If you have an issue that needs your attention with a government office, most likely you're going to get an official mailer. You're going to get a letter on letterhead. And that's going to instruct you of how to respond. And again, even if you do get a mailer, it doesn't mean it's real. Check the phone listing for the number to the local office for you to reach out to. And if you're having difficulty finding the local number for a government agency, either give us a call at the Attorney General's office. We'd be glad to assist you. Or call your local state representative or state senator's office. And if it's a federal agency, your Congress office, that Congress representative or U.S. senator will be able to assist you in reaching that particular agency directly and confirming if it's something you need to pay attention to. Most likely, it's a scam. And the scammers are going to try to frighten you. They like that scare tactic, right? They're going to tell you there's a warrant for your arrest. They're going to tell you that there's major fines. It's going to cost you a lot of money if you don't respond immediately. Don't buy in on that. You know, one of the things about the IRS especially is they're not going to call you or have a collection agency call you unless you've received 3 written notices first. That's the rules. They are not allowed to turn you out into a collection phone call status without 3 official written notifications. That easy. And, you know, when we talk about banking impersonators, very, very dangerous as well. Your bank knows you pretty well in most cases, especially if you deal with a small financial institution. You know, I deal with a bank and I also deal with a credit union. I'm more familiar with the people at my credit union. They know me very closely. I go in pretty often, and I deal with them over the phone quite often. So, you know, I have a rapport. And now there's security measures. The phone systems and a lot of financial institutions can identify your voice, right? So they know if it's you on the phone or not in some cases. So you should ask your financial institution if they have those type of security measures in place. Excuse me. Also, the bank should not call you, or a government office for that matter, and ask you for an account number, a password, a PIN, your ATM or debit card information for any purpose. They have those records. They should not be asking you that. You should have a standardized way to confirm your identity. Now, and I know people for many years, mother's maiden name, popular way to confirm your identity. I'm here to tell you that's not a very good choice anymore. You know, I can go online and go to Ancestry.com in about 30 seconds and know your mother's maiden name. It's readily available today, where 20, 30 years ago, that wasn't an easy item to find. Now I can get it relatively quickly with very little effort. So if you're still using mother's maiden name to be your verification, I would request a change of that verification with the bank or financial institution for better security. Never use your social security number or date of birth as your PIN or authorization code in any way, not as a form of verification of your identity in any way. Again, it's something once that's out, it can expose a lot of your information in a lot of different ways. So we don't want that to be provided as a security measure at all, right? And again, we talk about passwords and how do we create passwords. I want you to be very careful about that. People often use things that are familiar to them because it's easy to remember, right? Well, here's the problem. What's familiar to you is something you may have shared with others. You know, I have a relative who loves Disney. Everything they do is Mickey this and Mickey that. Well, their Facebook and social media pages are full of Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse and Disney characters. So when they talk about things, their favorite place to go is Disney. What do you think their password is? Disney, right? They use Disney and a couple of numbers. But how long would it take for a person who's a hacker to figure that out? Not too long. You know, if your favorite dog, your pet is, you know, your dog Cinnamon, and she's a great yellow lab, and you love Cinnamon, she's your favorite dog, and she's posted all over your social media, don't use Cinnamon in your password, right? Because it's going to be easily predictable. Be creative. Find a way to create a password that's unique, but often easy for you to remember. And that's not always the easiest thing to do, and I know that. Maybe use a line out of a favorite poem or a song title in your idea of your password. It's a little lengthy, but it's going to help you out. Or use the first letter of each word and then put some numbers and characters, of course, in there. If there's an S, change it with a dollar sign. If there's a 1, change it with an exclamation point. Those kind of things. We can mix it up a little bit to make that password more secure and less likely to be hacked, especially when it's attached to your banking information. You know, we want to make sure that we're really dealing with the bank. And the easiest thing is if someone calls and says they're the bank or a government office, we hang up and we simply get the actual real number for customer service. You know, every bank statement has the customer service phone number posted right on the bank statement. How easy is that? Go get that statement, get the real phone number, and dial it. Find out if there's an issue. Were you contacting me today? I got this call today. They said it was the bank, blah, blah, blah. Now, you've initiated the contact with a trusted number from a source that's reliable. You know you're talking to the bank. It's that easy. Otherwise, I say forget that call. Don't trust that call because you just never know. Excuse me. Moving on, we're going to talk about number 3. Healthcare scams. Now, you know, I did hit a little bit on this because, you know, we're in the middle of a pandemic. With COVID, we all have to be on guard, right? Because we know that people can be contacting us, telling us how, you know, our healthcare is at risk. You know, we have the track and trace concept. So, maybe you've been to a local restaurant or something locally and they've asked for your name and your phone number when you are seated. That's because if someone comes down with COVID and when they start speaking, the doctor interviews that person and they say, "Where have you been lately?" And they name the same diner or restaurant that you've been to, and they give that window. Well, I was there between Thursday and Saturday. I think it might have been Thursday night or Friday night. They can contact the diner and ask, do you have a seating list? Who was in the restaurant on these days? And they'll call you and advise that you may be a person who might have been exposed. They will not call you asking for date of birth. They will not ask for your social security number. There will be no payment expected or fees where you need a credit card or checking account number issued. Surely it's a scam if they ask for that kind of information. So even when our health care is at risk, people are taking advantage of us. Another way that we see healthcare scams are phony prescriptions. You know, I know money's tight for a lot of older adults, and a lot of times we look for ways to kind of cut corners and save some money, and I understand that, but we got to be very, very careful because that online prescription that we found that's coming in from Canada or from Mexico or who knows where, is it legitimate? Is it the right dosage? Could it be mismarked? Could it be counterfeit pill? Could it be a sugar pill? Could it be something more dangerous? Could it be the wrong medication, mislabeled? Could it be a narcotic? Could it be fentanyl, heroin? Who knows what you're getting? So, you know, I really want to exercise caution if I was purchasing an online prescription from a source I couldn't confirm or verify to be a legitimate U.S. healthcare provider. And I know money counts. I get it. But your health, there's nothing you can replace your health with. So, again, watch for these counterfeit prescriptions, these pills. Another concern is our record keeping. You know, when you get a service provided by a healthcare professional, you should get a letter in the mail from the insurance. We call that an EOB, explanation of benefits. You know, you've seen them. It says right across the top of the page, this is not a bill, right? That's because it's only confirming what services were rendered and by what provider. Read those carefully. What if it says you had some type of testing and you never did have that test done? Last month, I wasn't over for a scan at the healthcare center. What is this talking about? Call and report that to your insurance. It could be medical identity theft where someone has taken over your medical account and information. They're using your services, and that can cost you in a couple ways. First concern is, what if you are unconscious from an accident or an injury and you end up at the emergency room? You're in the emergency department at the hospital, and they pull up your record, and 2 months ago it says you were there for some services, and it tells them that you have the different blood type than you actually have. Your record has been altered because another individual went into those services, went into that facility and had those services provided under your name and identity, but they've changed and altered the medical record. Allergies, they put none. You have an allergy to antibiotic, and they dispense one. Now what? Your health could be at risk if you're not reading the explanation of benefits letter carefully and reporting any indiscretion differences in your health care. When you see that you were given services that you did not receive, you want to report that immediately. Again, it could also cost you financially. My wife had an incident many years ago when we first got together where she went to the dentist and they told her that her services were going to be out-of-pocket cost. And she's like, well, what do you mean? I only come once a year for a cleaning and, some routine stuff. They said, oh, you've exhausted all your benefits. My wife says, I don't think so. That's what the insurance says. Call the insurance company. So she did. And the insurance company informed her that she had a root canal 6 weeks earlier. Now, I think you're going to remember a root canal, right? She did not have a root canal, but someone did, and they used her name and identity and used her health care insurance, her dental insurance. So, it can happen to anybody. When that information gets out, maybe someone steals something out of your mailbox, right? Documents from healthcare providers are usually clearly marked with the name of the provider. Insurance mailings. People can steal the mail. I always suggest the locking mailbox is always a great feature to have because we want to protect our mail that's incoming and outgoing mail. And we'll talk about that in a little bit too. Let's go up to number 2. Sweepstakes scams. Now, everybody wants to be a winner, right? So, we see the big $1 million lottery numbers coming up, Mega Millions, Super Powerball, and all this kind of thing. There's always different lotteries and games that we can play to make money. And now we have online sports betting and you name it, online casinos, right? So, there's a lot of opportunity for people to then feel that they could be a winner. But are the odds in your favor? No, they're not. Not everyone's going to be a winner. Most people are not going to win. And more importantly, this is really something you should think about. If you're being notified that you're a winner of some type of sweepstakes or lottery, did you enter the contest? I mean, really, right? You got to be in it to win it, folks. And if you didn't enter that contest, you're certainly not going to be named the winner. If you're buying a lottery ticket, you got to pay for the lottery ticket. You don't get notified that you're the winner if you haven't bought the ticket. If you're going to enter a sweepstakes, you should know what sweepstakes you've entered and what date the drawing is going to be held on. Put that date on your calendar. I know I still have a kitchen calendar, right? I'm kind of old school. I like to have that kitchen calendar. I know everyone's on their devices. I have a calendar on my iPhone too. I know it. And I have a calendar in my Google account and everything. I have like more calendars than I know what to do with electronically. But I'll tell you what I go back to quite often, that kitchen wall calendar. That calendar is all our family stuff, personal things. More of my work and engagement for the public and stuff is in my phone, but my family stuff is on the wall in the kitchen, right? So that way everybody can see it. Did you write down the date of the drawing that you're possibly going to be that big winner? Because if they're calling you ahead of that time, obviously you didn't win. It's not real. And we talk about those big sweepstakes companies. Oh my gosh, right? PCH, everyone knows Publishers Clearinghouse. Huge. Been around for 80 years, I think. Reader's Digest, another well-known, well-established sweepstakes house. But are they contacting you by phone? Probably not. I actually took the time at one point to make a phone call to both of those enterprises. And I called Reader's Digest because I had a citizen who believed he might have been a winner. He received information by telephone that he won, and he demanded something in writing. They sent him a letter. But it just didn't look right to me. I reviewed it. I spoke with the gentleman, and he's like, yeah, I think it's real. I'm like, well, I don't. So I contacted Reader's Digest. And here's what I found out. Reader's Digest doesn't run their own sweepstakes. They hire a third party, an outsourced enterprise, to run the sweepstakes in their name. And when I finally tracked down these people, which was not easy, I got to tell you, I was on the phone for days trying to find these people. But when I did get a hold of them finally, we realized that they were real, but his letter was not. And they do send it by mail, but they don't send it in the way that this gentleman had expected to receive it. So we want to be very careful and very much alert as to what are we getting and who is it from. Same thing with Publishers Clearinghouse. They've told me that what they're going to be doing is that they're going to notify you just like on the TV commercial. They're going to come out and they are going to be there live if you're a major prize winner. Now, minor prizes, you're going to get a letter. It's going to be sent out probably more or less like one of the overnight package mailers, FedEx, UPS, something of that nature, or even the post office. But, it's not going to be a phone call. It's not going to be just a quick letter. It's going to be a little more extensive than that. So that's what we want you to know that you're getting, and be sure that you know if you're a winner or not. Number one, grandparent scam, right? We hear about this all the time. This, again, is the phone call most often. And when it's, oh, hey, hi, yeah, grandmom, I'm in some kind of trouble, and right away your heart sinks, oh, my gosh, it's my grandchild, and you figure they're in trouble, right? So right away you're flustered. You're going to listen to what they have to say, and what they're going to tell you is that you need to send them money right away. Well, it's a scam, right? So we want to be very, very careful about that. We want to make sure we know that money is probably not going to your grandson. It's probably a scam, and you want to be careful about that. So again, let's be very, very careful and watch out for these type of things happening. Call your grandchild's home and check. Call the family and just ask, hey, how is Jimmy? I just heard from Jimmy on the phone. No, you didn't, Mom. Jimmy's studying. He's right here in the kitchen on the laptop doing his homework. Oh, Jimmy's not in Tijuana in prison? No. Mom, what are you talking about? That's the scam, right? They're going to upset you that there's an emergency, that your grandchild is in some kind of trouble, and they need your help right away. It's not true. It's a scam. They're going to upset you and tell you that you have to send that money for bail, or they're going to be imprisoned in Mexico or whatever, or they're in a car accident. Maybe they've been arrested fishing without a license or what have you. And sometimes they know your grandchild's name. Sometimes they don't. But they're very tricky, and we have to be very, very cautious about answering these calls. So, again, hang up. Don't speak to them. Call the house. Ask about your grandchild's whereabouts. And just make sure everybody's safe. I do tell a lot of families it doesn't hurt to have what I call a security code. If someone needs to reach out to an elderly resident who's a relative, have a security word. Say grandma's dog's name is Skeeter. You call up and say, hey, grandma, it's James, security code Skeeter. I just want to talk with you. I have a little bit of a problem. Then grandma knows it's probably Jimmy. But anybody can call and say they're anyone they want to be, and that doesn't mean it's true. But it upsets folks. You get off guard, and you start to follow their lead right down the path of giving up credit card numbers, debit card numbers, running to the store and buying these prepaid gift cards and debit cards. Don't do it. That's how the scammers want to operate. They like the gift card and debit card thing because it's hard to trace, and they can get away with it, and they can transfer those funds, wire transfers through Western Union, MoneyGram. Again, easy for them to receive it, hard to trace it, hard to stop it. So we want to be very, very cautious when we're dealing in these type of things. And I think in the scam world, when we're talking about these things, we have to understand that there's so many different pitches and stories. You don't need to know all of them. We just went through the top 10 scam concerns that we hear about at the Office of Attorney General. But you don't need to know all 10. You don't need to know the other existing scams because they alter it all the time. Here's what you do need to know. Sudden contact, you're told to act now, right away. Money or information is required is usually a scam, no matter what the story is. So always remember, if you're suddenly contacted, told to act right away, and they want money or your credit information, personal information, it's probably a scam. And don't answer your phone. I said don't answer your door. Leave it locked. Leave your phone sitting right where it is. Don't pick it up. If you don't know the caller, please don't answer that phone. Chances are, if their name is not in your contacts, it's not someone you need to speak to. That's simple. Once you're on the line, you're subject to saying the wrong thing. You get caught up in a story. I don't want you to answer that phone. Let it go to voicemail and check those messages. Another concern is caller ID, and I've said this in the past too. You can't trust caller ID. There's new legislation we're trying to move to say that people who alter that caller ID, it's a violation of the law. Well, that's great. That's a step in the right direction. Problem is the person who's violating that law, finding where they are and prosecuting them is a whole other story. So, yeah, we don't want people altering the caller ID, but it's easy to do, and people do it every day. They use a computer app where they can put any name and phone number to show up on your caller ID they want. They could be Children's Hospital. They could be your bank. They could be the IRS. Doesn't matter what it says. You can't trust it. So we want to really be careful about those things too. Now what we like to do, we're going to move into talking about some credit card skimmers. Today a lot of people are engaging in financial transactions through a plastic card, whether it's a credit card, bank-issued debit card, or a lot of times we're using these prepaid cards. Basically, a card is a card is a card, right? They're plastic. They're the same exact size, shape, configuration. They have a series of numbers indicated on the card. They have a mag stripe on the back, and now a lot of them have a security chip. So we're going to discuss how they work, how they fail, and how they're ripped off, and what not to do. So let's get into this a little bit. Here is an ATM. On the left side of my screen, you see a hand pulling off a false front. Circled is the original slot where your card would go into that ATM, but in the gentleman's hand is the false front that was adhered over top of that slot. That false front hides a card skimmer. Basically, a skimmer is a magnetic card reader, which is basically used to get information off the magnetic stripe on the back of that credit card or debit card. And when a skimmer, a card reader, is in place, over top the original card reader, it's being hit twice. So yes, it goes through the false front, and this criminal is now copying that information. And then it continues in to the ATM machine, and your transaction is approved. It's being read 2 times. So it's not that it's going to deny you your transaction. It's going to approve it if your funds are available. You're going to get your receipt. Everything's going to be a normal transaction. And you're going to walk away not knowing, in most cases, that your credit card has been copied and now stolen. On the right side of the screen, they go a step further. They have a card skimmer overlay. Top center, they also have a pinhole camera to document the time of the transaction and watch the person there using the credit card or debit card. And at the bottom of the screen, you see the keyboard overlay, right? They've actually put a false keypad on top of the original, and that is if you're using a PIN, they can then steal the PIN right from your own fingertips. As you record it, it's documenting it and saving it in a microchip. So this is the ATM machine that's been altered. What we need to do is before we use an ATM, we want to walk up to it. We want to examine it. Does it look like there's been an alteration to any part of that equipment? Anything feel loose? Before you put your card in, pull and shake. I mean, don't go getting a hammer out and busting it off. I'm not going to tell them I told you to do that. I'm telling you just to use your hand and give it a good tug and a twist. If it moves or comes loose, report that. It's probably a card skimmer. Same with the keyboard. If you see if you can lift it up or off, look around for a pinhole camera before you engage any transaction with an ATM. The best and safest ATMs are inside the lobby of the bank, not outside a business or a convenience store. We have a video. I don't want to share this. I'm going to narrate the video. There's no sound. But I want you to get an idea of how quickly your information can be stolen on what we call a pocket skimmer. So here's a group of people having lunch at the restaurant. The waiter comes for the bill, and there's the credit card handed off, right? Normal. We do this every single day, don't we? Watch his hand. Goes into his pocket, pulls out a credit card skimmer, and he runs it along the mag stripe on the customer's card. How long did that take? A second. Now he has the data from that credit card stored on that little skimming device in his pocket, and it's no bigger than a Zippo lighter, so that's pretty small, easily concealed. He runs the transaction as normal, brings back the receipt and the card, and what does he get? He gets a reward. He gets a tip, right? Because the customer is not aware that his credit card was stolen. Now, at the end of his shift, he goes out and meets his partner in crime, hands over the device. That skimmer can be then downloaded onto a laptop or any computer, and the data is then shared in their criminal network to provide it to other scam artists that are going to be making illegal purchases on your stolen credit card data. Excuse me. This, again, only takes minutes. They can then take that data and actually burn it onto a new card and create a duplicate credit card that they can go out and use as if it's yours. And it doesn't have to be an actual credit card. Sometimes it is. Credit cards that expire and you throw it away without cutting it up can be reused and reloaded with your counterfeit information. A gift card that's expired, if it has a mag stripe, can be reloaded and used as a credit card with your information. A club card, an entry card for a youth storage facility. You name it. Any plastic card that's in the same size and configuration as a credit card with a mag stripe can be then rebooted with your information and go out in the public and be used as your credit card. And of course, they're not going to go to a cashier where someone's going to see the card because they might identify it's not your name on it. But they will use it at gas stations. They will use it at quick convenience stores where you pay directly on your own at the counter. They're going to use it in other places that isn't going to draw a lot of attention, busy, high-traffic areas. So here on the screen, you'll see an example of that skimmer that the waiter just used in the left side. And again, on the right, then they're out there with your card buying up a storm. Nobody knows you're not there making those purchases. The gas pump, again, is another location that we need to be cautious of. People can go in and then utilize the card on the gas pump. And gas pumps could have a false front, right? We showed you the ATM machine with the false front. reader built onto the gas pump. It can be, I'm sorry, on the ATM. It can also be on the gas pump, the fuel pump. So before you dispense fuel, do the same thing. Give that card reader a tug and a twist. Make sure it's not loose. Another great thing that we can look for, too, on the gas pump is a sticker that would be a seal. If you look up into the right side of the keypad on this fuel pump, you'll see a keyhole. Where the keyhole is means that door swings open for servicing the pump. Behind that door is all the electronics, and they can get into that with master keys and then alter the interior of the pump so there is no loose front device. Look for a tamper-proof seal going across the pump. Here's an example of the inside of the pump on your left where the wiring is, where it can be rebooted. And on the right, again, you see the keyhole. Look down below the keyhole, and you see the company's logo and the barcode seal, making sure that that door, once it was serviced, was properly sealed with a sticker. And it's a tamper-proof decal in most cases. Look for that before utilizing a fuel pump. A couple other quick tips on fueling. Make sure that you go to a gas station that is well lit if it's in the evening hours. The better the lighting, the better the security. Make sure they have security cameras posted outside around the overhang over top the pumps. That canopy, make sure that have cameras in it. Also, go to the pumps that are closest to the cashier's window. You know where the front of the gas station is in the window? You want to use those pumps that are directly in front of the cashier's view. Less likely to have been tampered with if the cashier can watch those pumps from their seat. The ones that are on the outside edges of this fuel station could be more likely to be tampered with. And the newer the pumps, the better the security. So, I love mom and pop businesses, but if they're not updating their fuel pump dispensers with new technology, they're not going to be as secure. The newest pumps, once that service panel is opened, shuts the pump off. It puts it out of service until it's locked and a security code is entered on the keypad to then reactivate that fuel dispenser. So if it's been tampered with, you won't be able to use it because it'll be out of service, which is a good thing for the customer. Security chips. Left side of my screen, I'm looking at the new microchip that's in our cards. It's called an EMV. Europay, MasterCard, Visa. Those three credit companies went together and invested in this technology to develop the chip. And this is the type of card that you have to insert into a reader to then activate the transaction, which is then encoded in a military transcription. On the right side of my screen, I'm looking at those semicircular motion kind of expanding outward. That is a RFID, which stands for Radio Frequency Identification. And this is the no-touch credit card security, where you tap the card or wave it in front of the processor to then conduct your transactions. Here is a card reader that would use that security chip on the left side that we looked at, the EMV. And I'll again give you a quick reminder that, those chips are there and it's to protect you. However, if it goes in on the left side of the screen, you see the red X showing you that card is well inside the reader. On the right side of the screen is a check mark showing that the card is exposed at least by a third, almost a half of the card is still hanging out. That is the correct way the card should be read. If it goes in really, really deep, it's probably a card skimmer. That oversized frame on that card reader is to hide the skimmer, which is stealing your information off your card. So if it goes in very deep, be cautious. That might be a sign of a scam. Now, when you do insert that card, we got to remember the security chip is doing its job. However, here's the problem. The mag stripe remains on the back, and that's where the weakest link of the security measure of that card is. Think of it, if you bought a beautiful home and you invested in the most expensive front door and security lock you could buy. It is the number one rated lock and door in the world. You feel very safe and secure. And you leave for vacation and prop the door wide open and fail to close it, fail to set the lock, and you leave. Do you think people are going to take advantage of that? Probably. Well, when the banking industry added this mag stripe on the card many, many years ago, it was high-tech security. But today, it's not. Today, we have that chip on the front, but we left the stripe on the back, which is leaving the front door wide open because it's very easy to steal that data off the mag stripe. The chip on the front is military encoded transcription. That's great. But the mag stripe is what we call static information. It doesn't change. And it has your account information right there. So when you put that in that machine, there could be a reader hidden inside. On your left side of the screen is an example of one of these card decoders that reads the mag stripe. And on the right is the oversized facing that goes over top of the actual card reader. So this is how they steal your data off the mag stripe. The safest way to pay today is definitely with the no-touch Apple or Google Pay type of system where it's on your device, whether it's your watch or your phone. This way, the card is never handled, the card is never inserted, the card is never swiped, so that mag stripe is not in play. You're taking the mag stripe out of play, so no one can access it because it's not there. The automatic transfer of data from your phone through the other device is much more secure. Now, when we talked about the other credit card, I said there was a no-touch credit card, but still you're handling the card's out in public, and people could then get a card reader that transmits about 10 to 12 inches away and could hit your card right out of your wallet if it's not protected. The only way to protect those cards is with an RFID guarded wallet or sleeve. So this is the best. If your phone's off, the card information is not exposed. You have to activate it before you tap it, and then your card is charged, and you shut it right off, and you're secure again. So in my opinion, this right now is the safest way to utilize your credit card payments and debit card payments when you're out and about. This is what I do personally. I have my debit card on my phone, and I use it in this manner because it is the best guarded way to do that at this time. I want to share with you our phone numbers and some information how to reach us. We are the Senior Protection Unit at the Office of Attorney General at 1-866-623-2137. You can email us at seniors@attorneygeneral.gov, and our website is attorneygeneral.gov. And you can click there to make a complaint. It's on the top right. A large button says submit a complaint here, and we'll be more than happy to review that issue and see what we can do to help you out in any way. We take all sorts of matters for our older adults. It could be anything from they think they got ripped off at the grocery store, price gouging during COVID. It could be abuse. It could be neglect of care. It could be a concern about purchasing a new car and the salesman was kind of shady. They're not honoring the warranty agreement. Could be a pharmacy issue. We have a healthcare section, right? A lot of people aren't familiar with that, so I always try to share a little bit about our healthcare section. The healthcare section works with our Bureau of Consumer Protection side, and they take any concern or complaint about any healthcare-related matter. That could be HMO insurance billing. It could be a pharmacy that's failing to provide the proper services, or out-of-date prescriptions or out-of-date goods. It could be a physician. It could be a clinic. It could be a testing site. Insurance, anything healthcare related. Your motorized scooters and wheelchairs, dentures, eyeglasses, hearing aids, any healthcare related complaint can go through us or through our healthcare section, and we'll try to help you out and take care of that as well. So with that, I'm going to stop the screen share and see if we have any questions or comments or concerns. Anybody? No, I don't see anybody. Okay. All right. Um, I want to thank you for joining my breakout session. I hope you found it to be informative. And again, our contact information is out there. Go to our website, attorneygeneral.gov. Feel free to reach out to us. And we do these presentations are free of charge. We have a couple different topics that are out there. We can certainly be glad to provide you through a virtual presentation like we're doing here today for the Neff Symposium. We also, for small audiences, depending on the situation, could do some live programming. We're starting to get into that again. Of course, using caution. I was invited to a senior living community this week, but unfortunately, they do have one confirmed case of COVID, so we're going to reschedule that. But again, we have presentations on fraud, scams, older adult bullying, presentations on internet safety, identity theft. So home consumer repairs, that kind of thing is always a big issue in the spring and in the fall as well. You know, we have storm damage people are looking at. So we want to make sure consumers are informed and advised. So we're here for you. We're here to help our older adults across the Commonwealth. And we're very glad to partner with the Pennsylvania Department of State, Pennsylvania Department of Banking, Pennsylvania Department of Health, and Pennsylvania Department of Human Services. And, of course, the Pennsylvania Office of Aging is always a great partner. So your state government is here to work for you and assist you in any way we can. And I didn't see Mike Bannon with us today, but Mike is a great guy. He's your Bucks County Consumer Affairs representative right there in Bucks. They are one of the only two, I believe, counties in the state of Pennsylvania that have their own Consumer Affairs office, and they're great. They will help you out as well. Feel free to contact both Mike and myself if any concerns moving forward for any of the seniors in the area. And again, I thank you very much, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day here at the Neff Symposium. Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.